I will talk for we both, Jean-Philippe Vassal and I. Our office is based in Paris now, and it's an office of 15 to 20 people working on different kind of project, mostly public. Just this picture to show that all these projects, built or unbuilt, are not separated, they all intersect. They form a continuous process of addition, reinterpretation, which reformulates each time recurrent themes and issues such as capacity, flexibility, superimposition, climate, comfort, pleasure, appropriation, shells, structures, economy, generosity of space, freedom for the uses, and optimism. So better than words, I will present a few projects. One of the most important projects for us since we started to work. This one is the first project we did more than 20 years ago. It's a small private house in the suburb of Bordeaux. And this house is still for us a very important project, and it was like a laboratory of many ideas that we are still redeveloping in many of our projects. For this project, we experience many intuitions and ideas. The first one was to extend the living space because we think that is one of the conditions to live well in a house. We also experienced the question of natural climate using some elements such as greenhouses, and also we worked hard on the question of economy, not as a restriction but as a tool to get a very important freedom to make your projects. This second project was in a very beautiful and fragile site on the seaside in Arcachon Bay in southwest of France, and we had to build a holiday house in a pine trees forest on the seaside, and the question was how to build a house in such a beautiful site without damaging anything, and that's a situation after should not be worse than before, but if possible better. So the project was we decided not to cut any tree and to build a house at 4 meters above the ground to protect the sand dune as much as possible, and also to catch the best view as possible on the sea. And the house is a very simple construction that turns around the trees, but without any other scenography than the landscape and the trees around. Some years later, a social housing program in Mulhouse, in the east of France, and here for this project of 14 houses, included in a larger program of 60 houses, we wanted to work and to kick out the standards of housing and to develop very large houses, twice bigger as the standards. And also working because it's social housing in the same cost as the standard houses, and the houses are very large, very easy to appropriate. And finally, the deal we had with the client was that he engaged to rent not higher than the normal apartment, because we worked in the same budget as a standard house. So he did that, and this is an idea that we like to say now, this question of luxury in conditions of housing, which is not related to the cost, but related to the very good conditions that you can give to people. We are also involved in the reuse and transformation of the modernist social housing of 60s and 70s. And we defend the position that these neighborhoods, very often rejected that in the suburbs of cities, for us are not a failure of the history, but we can do something for making them better and for the transformation. And while in France, an important program of pulling down was launched nearly 10 years ago. We studied carefully this question and defended strongly the idea that transformation that demolition was the worst solution and transformation was the most interesting in terms of human and social aspects of quality of new housing and also in terms of economy. So 2 projects followed this research that we did, starting from the ways that the idea that transformation should start not from outside view of the question, but starting for studying very carefully from the inside, starting from the individual living space and trying to improve every piece of these neighborhoods to make something better. This block is in Paris, and we won the competition to transform and refurbish it. And the proposition was that was a situation inside. It was already refurbished in the early 80s. And the proposition was to make an extension all around and to make the works without removing the inhabitants who stayed in the building during the process of project, but also during the works. So that was a very careful project that took care of every family, every person on the place, and we did these extensions all around the building, which at the same time brings a very interesting impact in terms of saving energy without adding any technical, too sophisticated techniques on the building. And this creates extensions of the apartments between 22 to 60 square meters. And this is a transformation of the building after. That's a totally new building, but redone in a very positive way. Another project which is close to be completed in a small city in west of France. We had to work on this block of 10 levels, 40 apartments. And here, because the situation was different than in Paris, and we had a lot of empty, uninteresting space around, we proposed to make a double project of transformation of the existing and addition, densification of new dwellings with the additions of 2 wings on the 2 sides of the buildings and an addition of 40 new apartments, and this totally new building that we will deliver in 2 months. All these projects are also very interesting because in terms of costs, it's 1/3 of the cost of the demolition and rebuild. A small coffee shop in Vienna, built in, we covered the walls of all the stables with oriental ceramics. University building in Bordeaux. It's a kind of urban plot with some buildings which are dedicated to some departments of this university. And the building itself is organized around in a courtyard inside. And we planted all around the building, in all balconies, all gardens, a rose tree of 700 rose trees all around the building. The School of Architecture in Nantes, which is a school in the new development of the city, which is now the new city center. And this school is not only a school, it's also a public space where the ground floor is dedicated to public events. as well as the roof, which is a public space, the auditorium open towards the river. Sorry. The two intermediate levels are the educational levels for the School of Architecture, and a big ramp starting from the ground floor leads to the roof, which is a large public square where there can be many events. And just to conclude, two cultural buildings. This one is Palais de Tokyo in Paris. It was an abandoned building where we did in 2 phases refurbishment and introduce new activities and new facilities for exhibiting artworks. And the last one, 2 minutes, 2 seconds. 2 seconds. It's a similar program as the one that you do in Bordeaux, Bjerkingels, and it's for a contemporary art public collection. And we had to settle the program inside the existing building. But after visiting the site, we decided to propose to keep the building as it is and to make a new construction as a twin of this building to settle the new program. And keep this existing buildings totally empty and open for exhibition. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.